And that's a meta joke. That's a joke from the guy who is behind in the booth saying, these lips are moving so fast, I don't know how to say the line, though, and our fan base won't buy this if you guys shove too much of your woke ideology into it. So we got to tone it back. And the fact that no one said, let's tone it back.
But to speak to, I think, a point that Katru brought up earlier in regards to contempt for the customer base, unless your job is specifically like with an activist organization or a political group, a person, say a localizer, who is coming from a motive and place of activism rather than localizing as intended, you are behaving in a way that is, in my opinion, unprofessional.
I agree.
It's not
And that person's value system, not their political values or their activism values, but their work ethic value system needs to be realigned or refocused towards the task at hand.
Okay.
Yeah. You're just a translator. You're essentially you're a data entry person who has a knowledge of two different languages.
But the thing is they don't even know.
Technically, translator is different than localizer. It is translated
don't
and
even
then
know the other
localized.
language.
Yeah, exactly. Andrew's got it right. They don't even know the other language most of the time.
Yeah.
They're given an a direct English translation of the Japanese via like whatever it could be or what it could be referring to, and then they try to make that hip and snappy for the viewer by changing the language.
And to be clear, I'm of the
give them
opinion
raises.
No, not them.
To be clear, localizing is a different skill than translating, and localizing is important. A genuine one-to-one translation.
That's what I want.
In most cases, wouldn't necessarily sound good.
Yeah, wouldn't it be the spirit of what the intent was of the original?
Yeah, there's a very fine line to walk. You don't want to turn your onigiri into a donut.
A jelly donut.
But you would need to say rice ball instead of onigiri. There's nuance.
Also, a good example of like a lose-lose scenario is
stand-up comedy.
Is accents, right? Do you give somebody, especially when you're dubbing it, do you give somebody that has a southern Japanese dialect, right? Do you give them the American southern dialect, or do you give them like the actual like southern dialect of Japan somehow, or do you
if you do that, you're going to be called racist?
Well, is the
I was
character...
going to say, what's your skin color in this scenario? It kind of makes a difference.
Well, is it pertinent to the character? Does the character need to be?
Usually it does, but not always.
Well, I mean, if it's pertinent to the character,
certain values that the character would have morally, right?
Yeah, if it's somebody from South Carolina in the 1700s or 1800s, excuse me, and they're flying a Confederate flag, that's kind of important to that character. It's an awful analogy. I understand that, but like you want that to carry over. Like, I don't know why I picked that. I'm sorry.
No, it makes sense. I was kind of going for like a foghorn leghorn type accent in my head, so I think that works.
Racist.
Like, let's say here you got somebody who has a Cajun dialect, right? And they're walking around New York. They're part of the friend group, right? Of certain people. Don't you think that accurately representing that character is important, or do you think that it is completely arbitrary whether or not you are depicting
Is it representative in their dialogue or something that happens on screen? Well, then yeah, you leave it in there. You bring it over because it's important to the character. You need to understand where this character's arc is. And if they're in New York City, you'd like to know why. Why are they always talking about?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Pizza.
Okay, Blaine is going to arrive. Hold on.
Okay, that's cool. I'm happy to have Blaine.
Let's go. We're joining the escape corner. I don't really have that much else to say. It seems we all generally agree on this subject.
Well, would anyone be comfortable with doing a Southern Japanese dialect in this day and age?
I would totally 100% do it because it would be funny, but I know that I would be called racist for doing so.
So would you go like, I don't know, a Southern U.S. accent, or would you just try and
in terms of localization,
normal?
I would try to make it a if they have a, let's say, what is it, the Kansai accent or whatever. I would try to find the closest thing that a Westerner would attribute to that, as so that the spirit is there.
See, if you're trying to stay true to the region and how they speak, I'm sorry, it's not offensive. Like you're trying to and then you have people from Southern Japan saying, "Well, why did you get some fucking white guy who's doing all this for us?"
But
like
the closest to the Kansai is the Southern, and we've already figured this out.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Okay, but would you be comfortable doing like a Southern Japanese accent?
You mean me?
Yeah, personally.
Yeah, so like in the south of Japan, you would ask for like 2 skewers. You'd be like, give me Nippon. But if you're in Tokyo and you ask for 2 skewers, you would ask for Nihon. Like they have completely different words that they use, and it's usually built around just dropping or completely bastardizing what you would say when you're in Tokyo. And so the idea of in our South, the Southern language usually drops like y'all, right? Like we don't say y'all in Washington. No one says that, but it's
oh
you
my gosh,
all.
Another Washingtonian.
Yeah, I am. And you're dropping. Man. You're dropping all kinds of consonants. You're smashing words together. So it makes perfect sense when you're localizing someone from the Kansai region. Because usually if someone's from Kansai in an anime, a lot of anime are set in Tokyo if they're in Japan at all. And so it's very obvious. Someone will say something. They'll be like, wait, you're not from here. And they'll actually reference it. And so having them speak in sort of a Southern drawl makes perfect sense. The issue with localization is just when they try to make a joke and the joke's not funny because it's just either too of its time, like when they put Riz or not even Gamergate or using like Leet speak in translations is like, that's not gonna be funny forever, even if it was funny for the 10 minutes you were in the booth. Or Gamergate, for example. Yeah, so it's bad jokes.
So I don't know, it seems interesting. Okay, it sounds like Charles said something.
No, go ahead, Greg. That was the sound of my brain processing what I want to say. My mouth hasn't caught up yet.
Hi, Charles. I'm Blaine from Blaine's Escape Corner. I do anime Monday through Friday at 7 o'clock Pacific.
Hi, Blaine. I'm Charles from Willis Greedy. I used to do stuff on a regular basis, but I don't. Hi there. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Good to meet you.
Gray, go on. I don't know what I got yet.
I derailed the gray train. Let me get back on this thing. Okay, so sorry, you said like so it would be perfectly acceptable to do like a Southern accent. I don't know, like it just seems like it could be offensive when I'm thinking of like the stereotypical.
So real quick though.
So when I'm thinking of like stereotypical,
why?
if you're going like Foghorn Leghorn for like everyone from Southern Japan, I don't know, like it seems a little over the top where it.
Oh, there's more than just Foghorn Leghorn to represent the South.
Well, but no, go with that. Go with Foghorn Leghorn, right?
I haven't done that. Yeah.
What is offensive about Foghorn Leghorn?
I don't know, you're basically reducing like somebody else's culture to like a caricature of the South because I don't know, like to me that just sounds odd where like all the anime that I've enjoyed, like it hasn't had this weird I don't know, maybe I'm envisioning like a wrong like stereotypical Southern accent.
What if we reverse that and we are dubbing Foghorn Leghorn into Japanese?
Wait, hold on. What do you call it? Blaine.
Yes.
What do you think that like what's her name from Azumanga Daioh is a good example of this?
I think the best example of this is going to be My Bride is a Mermaid, where the entire show is spent at the Seto Inland Sea, which is in the south, and it's from a character who's from up in Tokyo, gets moved down to this area, and like half the jokes are him not understanding what they're saying in Japanese, and when they translate it and they use the euphemisms of the South, it makes sense for a character when they're speaking English to not necessarily understand what some Southern thing about being cold would be. So they even have an idiom within the language that doesn't make sense to other people in Japan. And so the same thing would be if I was in the South and someone told me, I don't know, what's a Southern idiom? Horse's hair on the butt of something. You know, they got weird things they like to say down there, and they don't make sense necessarily. And so the idea of it, everyone being Foghorn Leghorn, I don't think I've ever seen one where it's like, well, I know, I'll say, like Foghorn Leghorn is a caricature of the
like,
South, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
but
that's
like
why I
when
thought,
you
like,
just
turning everyone into a caricature would be somewhat offensive.
Well, but they're not a caricature.
Not a character.
You can still have people from places, right? Like when we film something that's supposed to take place in the UK, everyone speaks with a UK accent. When we film. Well, we should.
Sometimes.
We should.
Yeah.
Like you would want the vocals to have some parody with what the original was supposed to be. And so
Fair enough.
while you think Foghorn Leghorn, what really happens is you just have the female character from Mermaid that has a little bit of Southern drawl when she's talking. Like it's nothing that's too crazy, nothing that's too out there.
And also on top of it is that she's also from a gangster family. So
yes, and it's even more funny.
Component, yeah.
Because then they take the gangsters and make the gangsters like Southern gangsters, like actual rum running mobsters. It's called My Bride is a Mermaid. It's an older show, but it still checks out.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta check that out.
It's an older meme, but it's checked out.
Gotcha. 2008. 10. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, that's older for today's audience, by the way.
Yeah.
I wasn't born yet.
Dude, it's insane. I'm like, oh, this is like a new show, and then I talk to like my audience, and they're like, I wasn't alive when that show came out, Grandpa. I'm like, it was Cowboy Bebop, you baby.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Well, fair enough. If it's more toned down, that makes sense. It just sounded like they were taking like essentially anything from the South will be like stereotypical Southern. Like I was thinking like, stereotypical New York. It's always that over the top New York accent.
So Gray, that begs a question. If it's an animated medium, does the characterization like that, is it about, so I can see if they were doing that for like a live action, it could be seen as offensive, but is it really that offensive when it's an animated medium?
Well, and real quick, less than offensive, if someone has a character that's bombastic and they're wild and they're just this big, huge, like everything about them is Kansai.
Caricature.
I could see that being like, okay, we're going to give this guy not only the Southern Kansai accent, but he's going to be basically doing his own Foghorn Leghorn impression. And then it would sort of make sense. It would fit. But if you gave that to a character that wasn't this sort of like caricature of the Kansai region, that wouldn't make sense. And that's where the localization comes in, where if it's done right, if it's done appropriately, if it's done without you just trying to make a joke with your friends in the booth, it can be done well and we can all enjoy it. Or it's like, it's not really a funny joke, and now you should probably think about doing something else.
Yeah. Like
I'm censoring for you, Kitty.
Like if it were me personally, like I'm totally cool with doing it. I don't think that there's an issue with it, but I think when it goes out to the public more widely, like I think you get like an Apu situation. Like I don't know, you could take offense to someone's portrayal of anything that they don't authentically represent.
Right,
So,
and it's a
I don't
balance
know.
too, right? Like, it is
Yeah.
is your audience, the people that are paying you, the people that are making it so that you get to have a job that, and you sit in the booth and you do this thing. Like, if you tell a joke, the Gamergate, the patriarchy joke, right? The patriarchy joke is the one that everyone goes to because it's like
Well,
the character's
joke,
got massive yabos and shows up in full clothing, and everyone's like, wait, what's going on? And yeah. And in the dub, she's like, "Oh, that patriarchy, you know, was looting me or whatever." And when she was Jamie Markey was talked to at a panel about this, her response. Hold on, I think I have it.
Yeah.
Did I write it down?
Guys,
I may have written it down, but it's basically like I'm a
I have a
woman.
vagina,
I have a vagina. You're that was strong, powerful women, and you don't get sex. So it's like it goes.
Totally steel man.
You know, I can actually strawman that for you.
Yeah. No,
I don't know if I could straw. I think steel manning it is pretty made of straw.
Right. No. Okay. So the point is about that response is actually to ignore what the person is saying and like what is like you're trying to imply that those kinds of criticisms aren't real, and what is the real problem you have with me? Oh, it's because I'm a woman. A man does this situation and doesn't get in trouble, but a woman does this situation and they get in trouble. The only difference that I'm tracking is the gender. So really, is really that they're having a problem with my gender. And why might that be? Oh, it's because they're not getting sex. Okay, so because you're not getting sex, you end up having a problem with women, and I am a personification of that. That's the steel man of that, right? But that is for the people who are voicing these concerns, that is a very low percentage of the people that are talking.
Yeah.
Nearly everyone who is bringing up this situation is staying on topic, and is consistent between the genders of the translators, localizers and such. And they are voicing their concerns where they see them and whoever is making them. So when you do these things, and this is a consistent problem that Jamie Marchi in particular has, is that she ignores valid concerns and makes it all about the game. She will not engage with the conversation legitimately.
True. And she's also hunting for her jelly donut moment, right? And that's a big problem is we have lines that are translated poorly and everybody laughs at it and memes it. And so then they think, oh, this is how I get internet popular, is by being the person who penned the next I love jelly donuts when it's really a rice ball. And so
the same thing with hating on the fans, because that's the somehow funny thing to do.
Yeah, it's like they try to cram their joke, and it's like, you know what, you may have giggled in the booth with your friend, but maybe you should have had someone else listen to that recording the next day and been like, oh, but we need our anime now, we need it now. So they're simul-dubbing, they're simulcasting, they're getting it out next week for the dub. You know, there's no real time for that review process to be like, hey, you need to not do this, or we should cut this down. So whoever's in the booth, the ADR and the actor are the ones that end up having a ton of control over what we hear in the end when it comes to anime.
Yeah. There's also the echo chamber issue in that a lot of people in that pipeline agree, and a lot of people that don't agree just want to be there to do the work and wouldn't dare speak out.
Oh, yeah.
Not where it matters.
Makes sense, you know? good old, what is it? It's like there's the LA branch and there's the Canadian branches that do a lot of the localizations, right?
It's all in Texas now.
Dubbing. Oh, it's all in Texas.
It's all
now.
in Dallas.
Yeah,
Sony moved all of Funimation Crunchyroll into the same building, so all of the dubbing is happening down in Texas, and it is
nice.
It is sort of like there's two levels of it. Like there are the people of the
Well, did
like
Crunchyroll close their San Francisco office?
I thought they did. I thought they moved everything to Texas.
Okay.
They might have a San Francisco office purely for like people who have to go to Japan and do stuff, because they also still have their merch and everything that they handle. But everything as far as the localization and the dubbing occurs in Texas. And there is a like what you're saying, there's a wide contingent of like, here are the people who have these thoughts and want to get their jokes, their ideology, their thing into the show. And then here are the people who are like, I just love anime, let me voice this character, and then go home. Like, I don't want to go home, I want to stay and I want to keep doing anime stuff, but like I don't know if that's what I get to do at this company. So that what Dorcas was saying happens all the time. And really all it is just getting enough base Texans in there that will flip it to be like, okay, here's what the line is literally, here's what we would say in English, and here's how we get it to the fans so that the fans have a good time. Because ultimately,
I might have a hard time with that in Dallas.
You could.
Dallas, no, but Dallas actually has,
but it's
some pretty, what is it? Pure, well, ideologically strong.
It's like not as progressive as New York City, but like it's still like, it's a major city area. It's still pretty progressive, especially compared to the whole state. So it's one of those things you can only get so much. Because
I'm down there about twice a year. I don't know. I think we're fine for now.
Okay.
Like it's still a place with giant billboards for strip clubs. So I think
there you go. That ain't gonna change.
We're a ways
Even
out.
Conservatives are horny.
Yeah, there's giant gun shows all the time, but more so than that, just the people. Like anytime I'm in like a restaurant or something, and you start chatting with someone, it's like, yeah, okay, I like you. I want you doing something cool.
Okay.
I've been lots of places where someone starts talking to you, and I will never forget this person who's like, man, owning something and then charging people to use it is like the worst. And I was like, what do you mean? Rentals? Like renting stuff? That's bad to you? And it was like, yeah, okay. Let's not do dubbing in Washington State, okay?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Man, so you're in Washington currently?
Yeah, I'm outside of Seattle.
Oh, okay. I used to live in Seattle.
I'm in the heart of the beast. I train every week for the eventual meeting that I might run into Vosh.
Oh, okay. Or Hassan.
Yep.
Gosh. Yeah.
No. Vosh is up in Cap Hill, I think. So
that's where I used to live.
I like hanging out in that area. It's still fun to go to. We can drink and throw axes. So
it's a lot of fun when you're reminded that Chaz Chop was there.
We got a axe throwing range over in my neck of the woods.
I love it. We had to get a special permit for the liquor license for that one.
Well, I would hope so. That should be difficult.
I am so down for axe throwing, but consider the very real fact that I'm also very clumsy.
That's the fun part.
Sorry, very little chance of hurting yourself.
Yeah, pretty much. But at the same time, the clumsiness, like having it slip through your fingers and nearly like chop yourself, that's fun.
Yeah, safety third. Always safety third.
That you just did, Kitty.
Mm-hmm. Finally, you get your prescription.
I just saw it.
Escape.
Yeah, that was really awesome.
Oh, wait, you can hear it? Can you guys hear it?
I missed it.
No damage.
Oh,
Yes. Now I could hear that.
I put it
but yeah, so Blaine, actually, what do you think about like So what do you think about that direct translation? Like
direct translation is not good.
Possible? I would agree. I agree.
My wife and I go to Japan
Mm-hmm.
all the time. We've made 8 trips now in the last 10 years. And there is a lot of idiomatic Japanese or just non-speaking Japanese. I've had full conversations with people that will say like, wow, you speak really good Japanese. And all I do is go, oh, so desu. So desu. Like, you don't have to speak. Yeah, it's like you speak so few words, but the equivalent in English would be like, oh man, that's right. Oh, that's correct. But like nothing I said was, yeah, that's right, or that's correct, right? So I think we need to change things.
That's one of the cool things about the Japanese language. It's like, it's how much can you take away? How little can you say?
Mm-hmm. They drop subjects so that they stop talking about the subject if it doesn't change. It's a language that is built on being as efficient as possible, and in English it just doesn't work because you would end up having like half sentences with every line. So you need to localize to some amount, and the question is just how much needs to be localized.
Exactly.
So to go back to what I was short-circuiting about, making jokes more modern, that doesn't make sense to me. Can you explain why you said that? Because these things are a product of their time, and you're essentially rewriting the script, no?
Making jokes more modern?
Yeah, because you said I forget it. It was a while ago.
Like,
I guess I'll clarify then. Making jokes that aren't funny to the wide audience, the people that are wanting to get it, that go off script, I think is a bad thing. And then using hyper modern language that is like if you watched a show and the character,
like an online trend,
and like the character who was not like written as a techie kid or like a Gen Z or something, uses the term Rizzler. Yeah, those are two things I think. But yeah, using like modern language that's going to be gone in like a week, and then jokes that just aren't funny.
Well, just as long as it's not in the source material.
Exactly. If Japan has like a weird new trend that's going on, sure, let some kids say Gat and Rizzler. That would be appropriate. But if he's not, then keep it out of there.
Okay, I misinterpreted.
Yeah. No. These are there are people that are introducing internet slang into anime where it isn't in the original script. It's different than a character using some kind of slang in the original script and then having a difficulty on how you're supposed to represent that, because the slang may not make sense in American or in English, and so or idioms could be a good example because idioms rarely translate.
Well, and stuff like the Japanese swear words don't really exist. Like kusai literally just means like stinky, but in the usage in Japanese, it's usually like calling someone like a shithead would be like the equivalent in English. So you would have to, like, especially with swearing, you've got to take it to the next level. Like you'll watch like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and a character will say like kimi, which means literally like you, but they'll translate it to bastard because of the context that you're using that word in.
Or like 10.
Well, like, what do you think about bitch? Okay, I actually have a big problem with them not translating it, not localizing it.
Oh yeah, when it's like bitch sensei, because in Japanese it means much more the literal bitch as opposed to like our angry bitch.
Well, exactly. Like in English, in American, a bitch is like an angry and irritating person, or they're, something along those lines. We all kind of know what we mean here. But in Japanese, they use the English word bitch to mean slut. Often.
And it's usually not even like mean. It's usually just a describer.
like
Well,
somebody who is being lewd or something.
Well, that brings in the interesting question of is if there's a word that is offensive in English but not in Japanese, is that something that needs to be localized or not?
Say that again.
Yes. If it's offensive, do we have to find the offensive? The offensive.
Yeah, if the word that needs to be translated in a one-to-one translation would be an offensive word in the English language.
Oh yeah, like let's pretend that
it's the intent of the original
script, it's the N-word or something.
Or yeah, that's the thing too, is that I actually have heard that Japan is much more comfortable using the N-word.
I would expect
just so. In general, and would it be appropriate to translate that directly in an English American work?
Yeah, I mean, I think you go with the Tarantino method and just do it, but I can't think that I've actually ever heard anyone use the N-word in Japan, and I've had conversations with people. So in Japan, the only black people you ever see are Ethiopians selling shoes in the in these shopping streets. So like when they talk about black people, it's a very specific person, and like it sounds really like, oh, that can't be true. I have met one black person in 8 trips, and I have driven from one end of the island all the way to the other. So I've been everywhere on foot, and I've seen one black person that wasn't trying to sell shoes in one of these side streets, or like trying to like get people to come up a store, and like they stand there and they're like, oh hey, you like watches, come buy watches, and then you'll watch them corral like groups of Japanese teens into these like knockoff designer stores and then try to like intimidate them into buying things. So like it's a very specific person when you talk to Japanese people that they have in their head when it comes to black people. It is really weird, but I think depending on the source material, depending on what the characters are doing, that you would need to bring either that definition of this sort of con man, or you could bring in the actual N-word.
Huh.
So
that brings in the topic of the story. Is it a Japanese anime about, say, the Civil War or something? Is it appropriate to use?
Right, like how would you handle like let's even just take away. We can actually have there's an example, a real life example, Kaleidostar. How would you handle Kaleidostar? Because
I'm not
takes
familiar with that one.
Oh, it takes place in California.
Okay.
A kind of Cirque du Soleil kind of performance company, and a Japanese character comes to America to perform in this kind of Cirque du Soleil circus-ish, kind of company. And so there are complications where you're having...
Because then you're almost getting double translation, right? You're having Japanese people translate what an American would be doing into Japanese, and then you're taking it from that back into English. And I think that again is why the role of localization should be done to its highest possibility. Because if you have just a translation, and then all of a sudden, my family, I got a lot of family that worked for Boeing forever, and they were selling a plane to the UAE, and the UAE was having trouble installing this part, and they get a message back that says, where do we get a water goat? I don't understand where do we get the water goat? And all of the engineers over here in the Seattle area were like, what the hell's a water goat? We didn't write water goat on any of this. They traced the location in the instructions back, and it was a hydraulic ram that was translated incorrectly.
Nice.
So stuff can go back and forth, and there's that class. Is it Seinfeld where he gets his book translated into a different language? It pops off, and then when they translate it back into English, it's meaningless. I have a picture in my brain, but I don't remember.
I know News Radio did that.
Is it
same
News
thing,
Radio?
but
Okay, yeah.
I think they did it from a more comedic effect, where Jimmy James's autobiography was translated into Japanese and then back into English for some reason.
Yeah, and then became like a bestseller. It's just so.
Yeah.
I
You're
realize
really having fun
dubbing
with those overlays, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
They're pretty awesome overlays, I gotta say.
I realize dubbing is probably a little bit different, but what is your guys' take on Ghost Stories and how it was dubbed in English?
Yeah,
and
I think that's
people...
a perfect. I think it's a perfect thing. Is that I think that Ghost Stories is one kind of experience, right, where you're having them toss away the script and make as silly kind of jokes as possible, kind of almost like a riff track, but a little bit different. And I don't think that's appropriate to do it in a okay, I think that's fine. Just right off the bat. But I don't think that it's okay to do as a representation of the original work.
Okay.
Right. So the Ghost Stories tale is really specific, and I'll tell you why it works, or why you're allowed to do it, and it ends up being okay. So every season now, I have had 50 plus shows to look at the titles of and the descriptions of, pick what I want to watch. From those, I'll watch about 30 different first episodes, and from those 30 different first episodes, I'll actually start watching about 10, and from those 10, I'll finish 5. Any other medium, like you don't have that much new visual content coming out all the time. Every quarter, there's more to see, there's more to do. So every season, you're going to get shows that are just sort of, no one's really expecting it, no one's really going to watch it. And even if you talk to people who are in dubbing, there's like a ranking of the series that they're going to dub. The top ranked ones, like this season, you've got the Solo Leveling that's going to get a lot of attention. You're going to get Classroom of the Elite that gets a lot of attention.
I'm really worried about that one, by the way.
Solo Leveling? It looks boring. Yeah. I'm not too worried about it. But you're also going to have shows that like no one's going to watch and no one really cares for. And so because you get a very limited audience to that, there is a little more freedom in having actors sort of practice or train or do other things. And so you have a show that in Japan is just a kids show, is just a monster of a week. Not that like anime is for kids or anything, but this was literally a kids show designed for kids to just learn about yokai. And it comes to America, and who is the target audience in America for that? Who are we dubbing that for? There isn't really a set of people that are like, oh yeah, I can't wait for Ghost Stories to come out and then get the dub so I can watch it. So you have a show that has very little audience attraction, and then you're able to actually be very funny with a lot of these ad-libs. And the fact that the jokes land and that they are just so off-the-wall silly, paired with the fact that the audience wasn't expecting this show to be anything. Like, no one would watch this show if it was just dubbed normal. Then that ends up working. But that is such a series of lightning bolts that have to hit. I mean, you look how hard it is for a localizer to get one joke to land in a series, right? Like, to have an entire series where the jokes are all great and memed on and everyone loves it. It's so rare that, like, I don't think you should try it again. But if someone took, like, here, I'll scroll to the bottom. Shimajiro Miracle Jima, right? Like, no one's going to watch this little tiger anime that I know of. It's just some kids show. Sure, give that a goofy translation. Practice, have some fun with it. But at the same time, you are going to piss off the Shirajiro fans. Yeah. And you just have to say, sorry, it was our practice time. Don't say, oh, well, you just hate me because I'm a woman. That's the difference.
Yeah, I agree with that. But what about the creators if they have an issue with what their scripts were?
Yeah. I mean, Japan usually doesn't even look.
Well,
they don't pay attention. That's part of the problem.
Yeah, that is part of the problem. And no, what is it? Okay, so the creators and the fans and the general cultural sentiment of Japan is a little bit different than the the producers. Because the producers, it's a financial decision. They are primarily concerned with that, which is why the localizers have become an issue again, is because Japan wants to, or let me rephrase that, certain publishers want to do simultaneous releases with their manga for American and, well, even possibly even other languages, but simultaneous releases with their English and their Japanese releases of these titles. So they are outsourcing the bulk of the translation to AI and then having a translator go over the AI to clean it up. Shueisha has already started this back in or earlier this year, and they've seen an increase in sales. Piracy has naturally fallen off for Shueisha products that have been doing this. I forget the publisher, but they're much smaller anyway, and they have started doing this for a new title that they pick up, The Ancient Magus Bride. Not that The Ancient Magus Bride is new, but rather they just recently acquired it, and so that is the series that kicked off the recent trend of complaining, or why it,
Dorcas is muted, by the way.
It has picked up new, it has picked up new traction, the localizer topic, and so they can the AI decision has nothing to do with the localizers. The publishers generally don't care. For them, it is purely a piracy and a financial financial decision in order to maximize their profits. This will put out a lot of work. Well, not a lot, but it will definitely impact the U.S. market from the publisher side, because they will simply be printing and releasing products that Japan has completed. So,
and even the original question of like, what is the original intent of the author can get really weird with Japanese anime, because with anime, you've got a director, you've got a script writer, you've got producers, you've got this group of people, but let's assume it's an anime that came from a manga, right? So then you have the guy that actually wrote the manga, his team that worked on it, his editor that got him there. So we would call that guy the creator of that series. And then before that, you have you've got the doujin that guy wrote, that is sort of a self-published, we would call it a Comicsgate comic, right? So you've got these doujins that they're writing that are just the one guy writing and drawing. Then he gets more popular, he gets that editor starts changing like what his story was, what his intent is, and then you got the producer. So now that guy has lost a little bit of that control over what his story is, what his intentions are for everything. And then moving into an anime and going into that new medium, oftentimes you'll just have a scriptwriter that's sort of working directly with them, and it's not going to be a 1 second.
Yeah. Just, while we wait for Blaine to come back,
it's not going to be a it no longer is the manga, right? And you have a lot of people that are like, that's not what it was like in the manga, or that's what it was like in the manga. So you have different variances for even the animation, how it's connecting to the original source material. And then you're taking that and you're changing the language from one to the other. So your intent of what the author wanted, you got to go back pretty far past that wall of the animators to actually get to what that author intended that character to do.
Never really thought about it that way.
What is it? Okay, I would like to actually interview and talk to this guy, but the Japanese author was involved with the season, I think it was season 3 of High School DxD, which I would consider to be a bastardization of the source material, but he apparently was involved with and is happy with season 3 of the anime. So it's very confusing.
Well, and you wonder too, like if someone's writing or making something, and then they're like, because they're on what would equivalently be like what, season 6, I think, as far as the source material goes. And he goes back to season 3 and is like, oh, this is what it should be like. And now he's doing that with the cognition of where he's going or what he's done, or like, oh, I wish I had changed that, when people loved the original rather than sticking to it. So sometimes you get the Lucas effect where they go back and they ruin things.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is sort of it. The problem is,
Guys,
it makes me wonder, like, did he have no idea what he was
requested
doing?
That one of you become Foghorn Leghorn, because Beamer.
You know what, Cameron? I'm not going to give you no Foghorn Leghorn, but I am going to give you Blaine Jones for the rest of the evening. All right.
I said Alex Jones. I said Alex Jones is a better voice than you, Sir Blaine.
Okay, is that better? I don't know if the audio is better.
I don't think it's better. But actually, I had a question actually for you, Blaine. Regarding the translation and dubbing stuff. You talked about ghost stories. Now, I've seen very little ghost stories, but from what I know of the meme culture around it, the main reason why ghost stories is so funny and great to a lot of people is the same reason why The Room is so funny and great to people. Like, it's just that bad. Does that?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Granted, I haven't seen a lot of it. I've seen some clips. It's been a long time since I've even looked at it, but that was what I generally got vibe-wise from why people liked it.
It's not that it's so bad. It's just that it's so lol XD of its time. If you remember that sort of caricature, the YouTube poops from back in the day. I mean, you have a character who runs into a police station and he's like, hey, we gotta get going. We gotta get going. Oh my gosh, these are the fastest lift flaps I've ever had to sink to. And that's a meta joke. That's a joke from the guy who is behind in the booth saying, these lips are moving so fast, I don't know how to say the line this fast. And so you got this joke, this meta inside this thing. And that's a funny joke because the character's mouth is literally going blah, 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 super fast. I have no idea what they were actually saying in the original. But at the end of the day, it's actually a really good show. I think the show works overall. You get the entire story that you need as they're trying to capture all these demons the same way their lesbian principal mother did at the beginning of the series.
Oh, yeah. Which you think is an Alex Jones joke, but is actually something from the series. So, with
Cameron's very appreciative.
I'm
loving it.
With I would say that Mystery Science Theater 3000 isn't, or Mystery Science Theater isn't. Its popularity isn't similar to that of The Room. That their comedy is funny because the jokes they're telling are funny. With The Room, it's funny in spite of itself, not because of itself.
IJP just got it. Have you ever watched an abridged series? Hellsing Abridged, Dragon Ball Z Abridged, any of these series where a bunch of people on YouTube get together and make jokes, but they kind of stick to the story beat so that you can still get the entire story at the end of the day?
I appreciate that you're also sticking to this story beat of being now Blaine Jones.
I mean, I don't want the people to get confused at the end of the day. It's for me, it's all about getting people into anime more, and join me every night on my uncensored podcast, 7 o'clock Pacific time. Blaine's Escape Corner.
Do you sell supplements?
Yeah, the only supplement you need is more tea.
And so,
but have you seen any of these abridged series?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's similar to that, where it's like it's about people making jokes, and but it's done officially, which is the crazy part.
Yeah.
Because even in the we want to shove our ideology into the finished product so that we can make your kids gay that they have in Dallas there, you are going to have people at the top who are like, you know what, I really like making money though, and our fan base won't buy this if you guys shove too much of your woke ideology into it. So we got to tone it back. And the fact that no one said let's tone it back and an entire series is being ad-libbed is just is fascinating. It's amazing.
Couldn't have said it better.
All right, and on that, I gotta go do things. It's my time. Kid, thank you for the link. Thank you for letting me in here. Everyone, Dorcas, Catru, Charles, good to meet you.
Yeah.
All right.
Good to meet you. Good to meet you.
Bye, Mr.
Good to meet you all. I gotta piss.
I'll forgive you for being a satellite.
TMI.
Yes.
So that was wonderful.
Seriously, everybody, almost like everybody on this show should be a voice actor. Like, yes, see, Blaine, I really think he would be a good voice actor.